Chapter 10, Windows Installation. 10.1, Modern Operating Systems. Operating System Features. Terms. The following terms are often used when describing an operating system. Multi-user. Two or more users have individual accounts that allows them to work with programs and peripheral devices at the same time. Multitasking. The computer is capable of operating multiple applications at the same time. Multiprocessing. The operating system can support two or more CPUs. Multi-threading. A program can be broken into smaller parts that are loaded as needed by the operating system. And multi-threadings allow different parts of a program to be run at the same time. The OS boot the computer and manage the file system. Operating systems can support more than one user, task, or CPU. Basic functions of an operating system. The OS manages the interaction between the application and the hardware, or what we call access hardware. The OS creates file structure on the hard disk drive to store data, or file and folder management. The OS enables the user to interact with software and hardware. The OS locates an application and loads into the RAM of the computer, or what we call the application management. Windows operating systems. Version Windows 7. This is an upgrade from Windows XP or Vista. Windows 8. This introduced the Metro user interface that unifies the Windows look and feel on desktops, laptops, mobile phones, and tablets. Windows 8.1. This is an update to Windows 8 with improvement to make Windows familiar for users with devices that use touch of mouse and keyboard interface. Windows 10. This is an update from previous version of Windows. It was designed for PCs, tablets, embedded devices, and Internet of Things devices. Customer requirements for an operating system. Compatible system software and hardware requirements. To make an OS recommendation, a technician must review budget constraint, learn how the computer will be used, determine which types of applications will be installed, and whatever a new computer may be purchased. These are some guidelines to help determine the best OS for a customer. Does the customer use off-the-shelf applications for this computer? Off-the-shelf application specify a list of compatible operating system on the application package. Does the customer use customized application that were programmed specifically for the customer? If the customer is using a customized application, the programmer of application specify which OS to use, like Windows, Ubuntu, or OS X. Minimum hardware requirements. Windows recommendation minimum system requirements. Components. Processor, RAM, hard disk space, graphic card, display, internet connection. Windows 10, processor, 1 GHz or faster. RAM, 1 GB for 32-bit or 2 GB for 64-bit. Hard disk space, 16 GB for 32-bit or 20 GB for 64-bit. Graphic cards, DirectX 9 or later with WDDM 1.0 driver, display 800 by 600, internet connection, necessary to perform updates and some features, Windows 8.1, the processor 1 GHz or faster, RAM 1 GB for 32-bit or 2 GB for 64-bit, hard drive space 16 GB for 32-bit or 20 GB for 64-bit, graphic cards DirectX 9 or later with WDDM 1.0 driver, display 1024 by 768, internet connection, necessary to perform updates and some features, and Windows 7, the processor 1 GHz or faster, RAM 1 GB for 32-bit or 2 GB for 64-bit, hard drive space 16 GB for 32-bit or 20 GB for 64-bit, graphic cards DirectX 9 or later with WDDM 1.0 driver, display not specified, internet connection, necessary to perform updates and some features, 32-bit versus 64-bit processor architecture, differences between the 32 and 64-bit architectures, architecture 32 bits, description, processes multiple instruction using a 32-bit address space, supports 32-bit operating system, supports maximum of 4 GB of RAM memory, 64-bit architecture, description, adds additional registers specifically for instruction that use a 64-bit address space, is backward compatible with the 32-bit processor, supports 32-bit and 64-bit operating systems, operating system upgrades, checking OS compatibility. An OS must upgrade periodically to remain compatible with the latest hardware and software. Before upgrading the operating system, check the minimum hardware requirements of the new OS to ensure that it can be installed. Microsoft provides the Get Windows 10 application that is automatically downloaded and installed via the Windows Update Service on computer running Windows 7 Service Pack 1 and Windows 8.1. Windows OS upgrades. The version of an OS determines available upgrades options. For example, a 32-bit OS cannot be upgraded to a 64-bit OS. Windows 7 and Windows 8 can be upgraded to Windows 10, but Windows Vista and Windows XP cannot. To upgrade Windows 7 or Windows 8 to Windows 10, use the Windows 10 Update Assistant available on the Download Windows 10 website. It walks you through all these steps in the Windows 10 setup process. Computer running Windows XP or Windows Vista do not have an upgrade path to Windows 10 and require a clean installation. Windows 10 installation media can be created using Create Windows 10 Installation Media tool. Disk management, storage device types. The two most common types of the data storage devices used today are hard disk drives and flash memory based drive, such as solid state drives and USB drives. When the storage device type has been chosen, it must be prepared to receive a new operating system, modern operating system, shipped with an installer program. Installer usually prepare the disk to receive the operating system, but it is crucial for a technician to understand the terms and methods involved in this preparation. Hard drive partitioning. Finding and launching the operating system is one of the responsibility of computer firmware, which needs to know the partition scheme to partition scheme standards. are Master Boot Recorder or MBR, and Globally Unique Identifier or GUID, Partition Table or GPT, Master Boot Record. The MBR contains information on how the hard disk drive partitions are organized. The MBR is 52 bytes long and contains the bootloader, an executable program that allows a user to choose from multiple operating systems. MBR is commonly used in computers with BIOS-based firmware. Guide partition table. Also design a partition table scheme standard for hard drives. The GPT makes use of a number of modern techniques to expand on the older MBR partitioning scheme. GPT is commonly used in computers with UEFI firmware, MBR and GTP comparison, maximum of 4 primary partition, GPT maximum of 128 partition in Windows, MBR maximum partition size of 2 terabyte, GPT maximum partition size of 9.4 CB, MBR no partition table backup, GPT store a partition table backup, MBR partition and boot data store in one place, GPT partition and boot data store in multiple location across the disk, MBR any computer can boot from MBR, GPT computer must be UEFI based and run a 64-bit OS, partitions and logical drives, primary partition. The primary partition contains the OS files and is usually the first partition. On MBR disk, the active partition is used to store and boot an OS. If more than 4 partitions are needed on MBR disk, one partition can be designated as an extended partition. A logical drive is a section of an extended partition used to separate information for administrative purposes. A basic disk, the default, contains partitions such as primary and extended, as well as logical drives, which are formatted for data storage. A dynamic disk can create volumes that span across more than one disk. Formatting creates a file system on a partition for file storage. File systems. File systems differ in properties of speed, flexibility, security, size, and more. Here are 5 common file systems. File allocation table, 32-bit or FAT32. Supports partition size up to 2 terabyte or 2048 GB. Used by Windows XP and earlier OS versions. New Technology File System, NTFS, supports partition size up to 16 exabytes in theory. NTFS incorporates file system security features and extended attributes. exFAT or FAT64, created to address some of the limitation of FAT, FAT32, and NTFS. When exFAT is that it can be support files larger than 4 GB. Compact disk file system, CDFS, created especially for optical disk media. NFS, network file system, is a network-based file system that allows file access over the network. NFS is an open standard which allows anyone to implement it. 10.3 Installation and boot sequence. Basic Windows installation, account creation. Authentication is when user enter a user and password to access a user account. Windows use single sign-on. Authentication, which allows user to log in once to access all system resources. User accounts allowed multiple users to share a single computer using their own files and settings. Windows 10 offered two accounts types, administrator and standard user. Administrator accounts have complete control over a computer. Users with this type of account can change settings globally and install programs. Standard user accounts have limited control over a computer. User with this type of account can run application, but they cannot install programs. Finalize the installation. Windows Update to update the OS after the initial installation. Microsoft Windows Update is used to scan for new software and install service packs and patches. Device Manager after installation. Verify that all hardware is installed correctly. The Device Manager is used to locate the device problems and install the correct or update drivers in Windows. The figure shows that the Windows updates and Device Manager utilities on Windows 10. This cloning. Installing an OS on multiple computers takes time. To simplify, administrators usually elect a computer to act as a base system and go through the regular operating system installation process. After the OS is installed in the base computer, a specific program is used to duplicate all the information on its disk, sector by sector, to another disk. This new disk, usually an external device, now contains a fully deployed operating system. And to be used to quick deploy a press copy of this base operating system and any installed applications and data. If an undesirable settings is accidentally included during the base installation, an administrator can use Microsoft System Preparation tool to remove it before creating the final image. Other installation methods. Windows has several different types of customs installation. Network installation. This includes pre-boot, execution environment installation, unattended installation, and remote installation. Image-based internal partition installation. This is a Windows image store on an internal open-hidden partition that can be used to restore Windows to its original state when it was shipped from the factory. Other types of custom installation. This includes Windows Advanced Startup option, refresh your PC, Windows 8, X only, system restore, upgrade, repair installation, remote network installation, recovery partition, and refresh, restore. Remote network installation. With remote network installation, the OS installation files are stored on a server. The client computer can access the files remotely. A software package, such as remote installation service, communicates with the client, stores the setup files, and provides the necessary instruction for the client to access the setup files, download them, and begin to OS installation. Because the client computer does not have an OS installed, a special environment must be used to boot the computer, connect to network, and communicate with the server to begin installation process. Special environment is known as the Preview Execution Environment. Unattended network installation. To perform a Windows unattended installation, setup.exe must be run with the user option found in the answer file. Instead of prompting the user, setup use the answers listed in the file. To customize a standard Windows 10 installation, use the System Image Manager. To create the setup answer file, the answer file is copied to the distribution share folder on a server. At this point, you can do one of these things. Run the unattended.bat file on the client machine to prepare the hard drive and install the OS from the server over the network. Create a boot disk that boots the computer and connects to the distribution share folder on the server. You then run a batch file containing a set of instructions to install the OS over the network. Recovery partition. Some Windows computers contains a section of the disk that is inaccessible to the user. This partition, called a recovery partition, contains an image that can be used to restore the computer to its own original configuration. The recovery partition is often hidden to prevent it from being used for anything other than restoration. To restoration the computer using the recovery partition, you often must use a special key or key combination when the computer is starting. Sometimes, the option to restore from the factory recovery partition is located in the BIOS or found in Windows. Upgrade methods. In place upgrade, this will be upgrade the OS and migrate apps and settings to the new OS. The System Center Configuration Manager. Configuration Manager task sequence can be used to complete automated the process. When upgrading Windows 7 or Windows 8 to Windows 10, the Windows installation program setup.exe will perform an in-place upgrade, which automatically preserves all data, settings, applications, and drivers from the existing OS version. Clean install. Another way to a newer version of Windows is to perform a clean upgrade because a clean install will wipe the drive completely. All files and data should be saved to some form of backup drive. Windows boot sequence. After pause, the BIOS locates and reads the configuration settings stored in the CMOS memory. The boot device priority is the order in which devices are checked to locate the bootable partition. The BIOS boots the computer using the first drive that contains a valid boot sector. The sector contains the master boot recorded. The MBR identifies the volume boot record, which loads the boot manager, which for the Windows is boot manager.exe, hard drives, network drives, USB drives, and even removable media can be used in the boot order depending on the capabilities of the motherboard. Windows 7 startup modes. Pressing the F8 key during the boot process opens the Windows Advanced Boot Options menus. User can select how to boot Windows for startup options, safe mode, a diagnostic mode used to troubleshoot Windows, and Windows Startup. Functionality is limited as many device drivers are not loaded. Safe mode with networking starts Windows in safe mode with networking support. Safe mode with command prompt starts Windows and loads the command prompt instead of the GUI. Last known good configuration loads the configuration settings that were used the last time that Windows started successfully. Windows 8 and 10 startup modes. Both Windows 8 and Windows 10 boot too quickly to use F8 to access startup setting. Instead, hold the Shift key and select the Restart option in the power menu. This will display the chosen an option screen. Startup setting. Use number keys or function keys. F1 to F9. 1. Enable debugging. 2. Enable bootlogging. 3. Enable low resolution video. 4. Enable safe mode. 5. Enable safe mode with networking. 6. Enable safe mode with command prompt. 7. Disable driver signature enforcement. 8. Disable earlier launch anti-malware protection. And 9. Disable automatic restart after failure. F10 for more option. Press enter to return to your operating system.